You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and the interview subject I've got coming up for you is a bloke that I have been looking forward to talking to for a very long time, it must be said. It is Tony Campos. Now, he's the bass player in Static X, but he's also been the bass player in Fear Factory, Ministry, Soulfly, Prong, and a heap of other bands. This is a guy that any bass guitarist out there that plans to become a working musician should emulate. You hear me talk about all of that through the podcast interview. The reason for the conversation, though, so the reason for the opportunity to chat to Tony is because he is touring Australia with Static X in August. And I'll read out some dates. All of these shows also feature Wednesday 13 and Dope. The 22nd, they're playing in Brisbane. The 23rd, they're playing in Melbourne. The 24th, they're playing in Sydney. The 26th, in Adelaide. And then Perth on the 27th, you've got a show. So all of those shows in August 2019. Let's have a listen to what Tony has to say. Really enjoyed this chat. Here we go. Hey, Tony, it's Andy Mackay-Smith calling for our chat. How you going?
Hey, going good, man.
Mate, it's really good to talk to you, and I'll tell you why. I'm a bass guitarist, and I've been playing bass for, I don't think as long as you have been, but about 25 years or so, close to 30 years, it must be said. Now, through that time, I can't think of anybody else who has been more flexible and who has committed themselves to more situations to be more versatile and really just put themselves out there to get work than what you have across so many of the bands that you've been in and that you've been a part of. So I really got to offer you that congratulations up front first.
Well, thanks, man. I've just been really lucky. I've been fortunate enough to, most of the gigs I've got have been with bands and people I would have chopped my left nut off to play with, So it just that aspect of it alone, like it's a like a fanboy's dream come true,
Yeah, I mean, of course I don't know you personally. We've only just met in inverted commas right now, mate, but you must be really easy to get along with and you must really understand the business side of things because, your resume reads as a who's who in terms of who you've played with of important rock and metal artists of the last 25 odd years or so. You've played with just about everybody and you've been prominent in those bands as well. So you really are, I think, I talk to a lot of younger musicians, just meeting them when I'm out and about, just talking to people. I was at a party on Saturday night, for example, a 50th, and there was a young fella there, an 18-year-old there, and it's people like you that I've got in mind whenever anybody asks me questions like, of course, I didn't do it. I couldn't do it. I mean, living in Australia is pretty tough for us to become a working musician on an international basis like what you are. But the other point is you've also got to, when you get the opportunities, make the most of them. And you've always been able to do that and obviously people have been able to, tolerate you being around, being on tour buses and all of that sort of stuff because that's really 80% of it, isn't it? Being a personality that people can mesh with.
Absolutely, man. Like that's a big part of, being able to work, when you're out on tour with people, it's like you're living with these people basically in a rolling tube for, 5-6 weeks at a time, so like if you can't get along with people, you're not going to get a whole lot of work, no matter how good you are. I could be Billy Sheehan or Steve DiGiorgio or Cliff Burton, but if I'm going out there and being a dick to people, nobody's going to want to work with you,
Well, that's another thing I really like about you is you've done it without needing to be a Billy Sheehan or a Steve DiGiorgio. In terms of you've provided a very solid groove, a very solid background. You can sing really well. You're a very well-rounded musician, but you've gotten all of this work and you've kept in the business, not by being flashy, but by being consistent. And a lot of these kids these days, as you well know, you see these YouTube videos and they're shredding on the bass like Ingwe does on the guitar. But I often think to myself, like when I'm looking at these videos, like that stuff's fine, and that stuff's fine if you really want to show off for the purposes of a YouTube video. But that's your 15 minutes of fame right there. If you want to become a working musician, the guys you need to emulate it's Tony Campos. It's you, mate. It's guys like you that you need to emulate in order to really understand if you want to have a career. And the key word here is career in the music industry. It's guys like yourself and Blasco. Blasco's another one, similar to you.
Yeah.
It's you two, man. It's you two that you got to look at. And I know you both do a lot away from the instrument as well. So it's that 360-degree view that you've really got to take if you're a bass guitarist.
Yeah, like all the flashy stuff, that's all well and good, but if you can't hold down a groove, you can't lock in with your drummer, then you're not really of use to a band. I mean, if you want to be a solo artist, like Victor Wooten or somebody like that, then solo all you want. But if you want to work with the band, you gotta really do the basics. No pun intended. And hold down a groove and lock in with your drummer and just have the solid fundamentals. And the important thing is when you do get those opportunities, you gotta make sure you're prepared. Well rehearsed, and have your chops up, man. So when you do get those opportunities, you take full advantage of them.
So a lot of people have gotten caught up in a lot of the fun side of the music industry, drugs, alcohol, all that sort of stuff. You've been in it a long time, man, and to your point, man, you have worked very hard and you've always been ready. What's kept you focused when so many have gone by the wayside?
I just love what I do, man. I wake up every day. I still have those moments out on tour. Where like, I'm in my bunk, at the end of the day or in the morning, and I'm just like, man, I'm still out here doing this. Yeah. So I love it, man. This is my dream job.
So when you were like a 16-year-old young fella there in Los Angeles, did you have any inkling or any thought that you'd end up playing with you're a foundation member of Static X, but you've been an integral member of Soulfly, Prong. I mean, Prong is one of my favourite all-time bands right there. Ministry.
Oh, yeah.
Asino.
Yeah.
You've done it. You've done so much, man. But did you think that it was going to work out like that, or did you just sort of hope something good would happen?
This was the last thing I thought I would ever do. Playing music professionally is the furthest thing from my mind. I was going to school. I was actually a computer science major in college.
Oh yeah, yep.
I went to college for 3.5 years, and my financial aid ran out, so I had to drop out. Worked full time for about a year or so, then applied at a trade school to learn drafting. It was a 2-year program, and at the end of my first year, the school decided to cancel my program. So I was like, damn, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do with my life? And around that time was when Static started getting interest from management and labels, and so I was like, well, let's see where this goes. And 20 years later, here I am, still playing music for a living,
Well, here you are indeed. Yeah, here you are indeed. And is there any? Of course, you work with Static X, so you're very well known for that. But the other bands that you've been into, what's been the highlight elsewhere? Can you single out any one episode or any one project that you've been a part of with so many of the great artists that you've worked with that you're really proud of and that you really look back with a fond memory on?
A lot of it, is like I said, it's like those dream fanboy moments. I mean, the two bands Static X ripped off the most were Ministry and Prong, and I got to play in both those bands. Cool. Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one, I guess it would have to be playing with Ministry in 2008. At the time it was the See You Late tour. I was supposed to retire, and so I was I was supposed to be the Ministry's last bass player. So I was like, man, that's like, whoever thought that would happen. I remember coming home after that was all said and done, and we'd done like 8 weeks in Europe, and then had that long ass flight home, and I just, as soon as I got home, I went to bed, and then when I woke up, I was like, man, did that just happen? Did I just toured with Ministry?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I can just tell how much you appreciate it too. Like for you, this is something that you're in a real position of grace and appreciation for this wonderful opportunity you've got, and and you're smart too. You talk about being a computer science major and then going into drafting, man. I knew you weren't a dummy. That was pretty clear, but you're obviously very intelligent.
Well, I have my moments.
Yeah, it's
I have my moments for sure.
Yeah. Hey, I do a lot of writing about the band Morbid Angel. Actually, I'm on the precipice I'm talking to, if you can believe it, Trey's mother about interviewing her.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
wow.
And I've written some. So I'm eventually I want to help. Like I'm going to approach Trey and his management. I want to help him ghostwrite his autobiography.
Oh wow, cool.
So you were on that Extreme Steel tour back in the day, and I know you had some issues. So you weren't playing bass; you were singing. I'm led to believe on Wikipedia here. But what are your memories about working with Morbid Angel then? Because I know you weren't in the band; you were one of the bands on the bill with Pantera and Morbid Angel. But that was probably the first time they played in front of really big audiences and in arenas and the like. What are your recollections of them when they were on that tour?
That was really cool, a big Morbid Angel fan. I mean, that tour still is like probably the definitely up in the top 5 of tours I've done, getting to see 3 of my favorite bands every night for a month and a half, was just awesome. And what was really cool, even though I had a broken collarbone for the first 3 weeks of it, every night, me and Phil would sit on the side of the stage and watch Morbid Angel, because he's a huge Morbid Angel fan, and I think that he's the reason why they got on the bill. So just to get to watch Morbid Angel and hang out with Phil, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, sweet.
I remember when I first met those guys there at the tour, and they actually know some buddies of mine from high school, the guys that got me into death metal and grindcore and stuff like that. The guys Rick and Bay Cortez from Sadistic Intent. And so when I guess they'd seen a photo shoot I'd done where I was wearing a Sadistic Intent t-shirt, and I think it was Eric Rutan that first came up to me and said, "What's up?" And he's like, "Oh, hey man, what's up, man? I saw you in a photo shoot wearing a Sadistic Intent t-shirt." And I was like, yeah, those old buddies of mine, and we just kind of hit it off from there. And didn't really speak to Trey too much. He's kind of a quiet guy.
Yeah.
And got to hang out with Jared, who was singing for them at the time.
That's right, Jared Anderson, R.I.P. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He was cool. He's a really cool dude. And Pete hung out with him briefly. I think I maybe smoked some weed with him.
He's a lovely guy, man. I've had an hour-long conversation.
Oh yeah,
with
yeah.
him.
I've run into him years later now that he's sober, and like the change is pretty remarkable.
Pretty profound, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think a lot of extreme metal fans know how to take him these days because, of course, his newfound faith in Christ, and he is, to me, he is the alpha and the omega of extreme metal drumming. He's just magnificent.
Oh, absolutely. Just the stuff he did on Terrorizer, on that first Terrorizer record alone.
Yeah, not to mention the rest of the Morbid Angel catalog and the new.
Not even mentioning Morbid Angel, just the stuff he did on that Terrorizer record is Jesus.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. There's so many, but that's the thing with you, man. And if it's cool with you, man, I'll release this as part of my podcast series, this conversation, because I think people need to know, man, that if you're a young musician and you're putting yourself out there and you want to work with the best in the business, okay, so first and foremost, you probably got to start off by being fairly intelligent like what you are, but then you got to apply yourself and stay away from the drink and the drugs and all of the rest of the temptations that are out there, because they're not real. They're just an illusion. The music is the only thing that's real. And so you've got to build your attitude up around performing and recording and just sort of being a decent dude to hang around with on tour buses and on aeroplanes and in bloody airport lounges and all of the bullshit that really take up most of the time. Most of the time, it's really you're really a professional traveler at this point, aren't you?
Yeah. That's the downside of this business, is just all the traveling and all the minutia of getting from one town to another, getting from one part of the world to another. That's the stuff that's for me. That's the work part of this.
Yep.
Once you get on stage and then that's the fun part. That's what makes it all worth it to me, is just, that half hour, whatever, however long I get to be on stage and play music. That's what makes the rest of the day worth it for me.
Yep, indeed. Mate, I think that's it. Have I got time for one more question, or have you got to jet off to the next one?
I think I got a little more time, yeah.
Okay. Has there ever been an artist that, and don't share it if it's too controversial or what have you, but that has approached you to tour with them or work with them and you've knocked back? Because I imagine that there would have been.
No, can you repeat the question, though?
Has there been an artist or a musician that has approached you to work with them and you said, no thanks, like not for me, that sort of thing? Because you've worked with so many greats.
Yeah, I don't think so. If I've had to turn down a gig, it was mainly due to scheduling conflicts. Like Ministry's leaving for Europe next week, I think. I just hung out with Al last night.
Oh, cool. He's an awesome dude too, actually. Yeah, I had a chat to.
I love that.
I had a chat to him, and
Al's like the demented grandfather I never had. It was like, the guy's done so much. Like when from day one, when I started hanging out with him, and you get him going, and he starts telling stories about the old days, and you kind of feel like you're sitting there with your grandfather, and he's just like, telling you stories of the old days and how things were, just throwing all this knowledge on you, and that's how I feel when Al starts telling me stories, it's just like, you just sit there all quiet and like listen to him, give you words of knowledge, and all the craziness that he did, an eighth of the stuff he did would have killed me.
Likewise, I think I would have been dead very quickly, mate. Yeah. I don't know how I'm so glad he's still with us, but I don't know how he survived, man.
Yeah, no, I don't know how he. 1 year, I think it was the year after Wayne had died. He invited a bunch of us over to his house for Thanksgiving dinner, and he had a picture. He has pictures of Mike Scotia, Paul Raven, a couple other people who had also recently passed away, and we were just talking about all the friends we'd lost, and I turned to him and I was like, you know what, dude? You're going to fucking outlive us all, man. Mark my words. You will outlive us all. This guy, he's like indestructible, man. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, that old saying about we've got to start thinking about the world that we want to leave for Keith Richards and Lemmy. Remember that used to be a saying going around. I think we need to, now that Lemmy's gone, I think we should put Al in that mix. So we've got to start thinking about the world we're going to leave for Keith and for Al.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mate, I'd better let you go to the next one. These things are over far too quickly, man. I just love talking to the musicians like yourself, man, and getting the good oil on what your thoughts are on everything. But, I've already said it, man, but I think you're a legend of the music industry, and you are the one guy, bass guitarist that I keep putting forward to people who say, who should I emulate? Who should I look at? And I say, it's the great Tony Campos. Get online, discover the way he's done things. And, you know, you're coming down to Australia, man, so I just hope we can catch up and I can shake your hand and potentially have a beer with you.
Yeah, I'm always down for that, man.
Cool, mate. All right, well, good luck with everything, eh?
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Okay, see ya.
All right, take care.
Bye. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that guest, that interview subject, was Tony Campos, the great Tony Campos from Static X and a heap of other bands. Thanks so much for listening.